Just dangerous beats.
Alright, what's going down, everybody? So today we're doing another video, and in today's video we're going to be doing a basic training Q&A / my experience. So I'm basically going to be answering a bunch of questions that some people had about Army basic training, and I'm going to be answering them using my experience. So this first question here, well, first, I went to basic training in 2017. I went from October 2nd to December 14th. So I was there for about 2.5 months. Yeah, back in 2017, so about, 3 years ago? Well, a little over 2 years ago. So, first question here. Now, this question was asked from one of my former battle buddies. He knows the answer to this question, but he was just asking it just to be funny, I guess. But anyways, he asked, how many times did you get smoked in the barracks? And so real quick, basically what getting smoked is basically when if you or your platoon or anything like that, like you make a mistake or you do something stupid, or sometimes if the drill sergeants are just bored and then they smoke you. And basically what it is when they make you do some sort of physical punishment, whether it be something simple or sometimes it can be something super, super upsetting, and they'll do it for however long they want to. So that's what getting smoked is, basically. So how many times did we get smoked in the barracks? Man, we got smoked too many times in the barracks, man. And the thing about it was that for us, so like in the bay, in the barracks, you're in a bay with like 60 guys. So like, and it's set up like a jail cell. Like you got it's just bunks and lockers lined up against the wall, and there's about 60 of us in there. And so every night, every hour, there's supposed to be 2 recruits that stay awake, and they pull what's called fire guard. The thing was that the drill sergeants would come in to check on us at any given moment. So like if you were asleep or you were doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, then what they would do is they would turn on the lights and wake everybody up and make us do whatever we had to do in the middle of the night for those 2 recruits' mistake. So that was our biggest thing, was that the majority of the time we got messed up in the barracks was because of that. So basically, anytime someone was asleep or anything like that, and that happened. If I was to make a guess, I'm gonna say that happened to us maybe like 6 or 7 times that we had somebody that we had to be woken up in the middle of the night for that. And there was one time that we actually got smoked in the barracks during the daytime, and it was the worst one we ever had, and it was because the drill sergeants for our bay were constantly getting onto us for having a messy bay. In all honesty, we clean that thing every day, and I mean they get onto us for like one dust bunny. And so one day they were just tired of it, so they called us all up to the bay and made us put on our helmets and our vests and everything, and they just went to town on us, man. And it was pretty bad, but that's a story all in itself. But overall, in the barracks, we got smoked quite a bit. The next question I have here is, how was the weather? So I went to basic training in South Carolina, Fort Jackson. For me, and going between October and December, it was cold. It was always cold. It was either cold or it was always cloudy and rainy, or both. And most of the time it was both. It was always cloudy and cold, or raining and cold, but it was always cold for sure. Now, depending on what time of the year that you go, and also depending on where you go, the weather can differ. So I mean, yeah. But as far as if you go to Fort Jackson towards the winter time, yeah, it's gonna be cold and rainy. So just be ready for that. All right. So the next question that I got here is, do they treat you as bad as the TV/movies show? So right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you nah. I'm gonna say nah. That the way things look in TV and in movies, it's exaggerated, and it's like that because of the fact that it's a movie or a film, they do that for the exaggeration of the entertainment and getting the reaction of the crowd, stuff like that. So of course it's going to be more exaggerated. However, it is bad, they do treat you, like you're nothing, and they do yell at you, and whatnot. So, I mean, that aspect is true as far as them yelling at you and getting in your face and just making you feel like you're nothing. But the thing about in the movies and stuff is it's always exaggerated with You know, you'll see sometimes like the drill sergeants will put their hands on the recruit, you know, and like or hit the recruit, you know, or things like that. Things like that won't happen. Um, at least it wasn't in my experience. So yeah. Next question I got here is, how does Army basic training compare to other branches? I can't speak for other branches because I've never been through any other branches basic training or boot camp. Uh, I mean, the best thing I could tell you is just based on videos I've seen on YouTube and also stories that I've heard from friends I have in other branches. I feel confident enough to say that the Army is definitely one of the tougher branches. So, like I said, I've never been to another branch, so I mean, I don't know from experience, but I mean, overall, Army basic training is tough. But I mean, any military base training is gonna be tough. I mean, it's military regardless of which branch you go to. Sure, some branches may be tougher than others, but they're all gonna be tough. Do active duty reserves and National Guard go to basic training together? So this is a big question that I get asked a lot because I myself am in the reserve component, and a lot of people think that reservists and National Guardsmen have our own like basic training, that we don't train with the active duty, that we do our own thing, and they think that it's easier than regular active training. And also, some people think that reserves don't go through a boot camp at all. They think that you just join the reserves and you only go to basic training if you get called to war. So that's definitely not true. Both of those are not true. Reserves and National Guard and active duty soldiers all go through the same basic training together. We all train together. So that's that. So how is the rooming set up? That is the next question. So basically, like I was saying earlier, it's basically just like a big room. It's like just a big room, and it's just all these bunk beds lined up along the wall, and then as well as all the lockers are behind each bunk bed. And that's pretty much it, man. It's just like a big room with a bunch of bunks and lockers in it. And then you'll have, towards the back, then you have like your restrooms and your showers. But other than that, you're just all in that one big room together. So that's pretty much how that's set up. Next question, how often do you shoot guns? Well, as far as for the M4, the main rifle that you have to qualify on, we spent a good 3 weeks shooting that. And it was within the 3 weeks, we had to zero our sights and then qualify on the qualifying range, and then zero our red dot optic, and then qualify on that optic also. So you have to qualify on both the iron sights of the rifle, and then on the red dot optic. It's called a CCO, close combat optic, but it's just a little red dot. So you do have to qualify on both of those, and it took about a 3-week period that we spent doing that. And then that's the only weapon that you have to qualify on. Other weapons that we did shoot the 240 Bravo machine gun and a grenade launcher, but I forget what the grenade launcher is called, but it's just a little grenade launcher. So we did shoot those also. Those don't require a qualification. It's just a matter of us learning how to use it and getting familiar with it. But those were fun to shoot. So I guess you do shoot quite a bit, but I mean, it's not like an everyday thing. Next question is, how is it being without a cell phone and outside world news? So you get your cell phone taken away the first day, and you pretty much never get it back. The only time we ever got our phones was on Thanksgiving Day. They gave us our phones to make a 10-minute phone call to our parents and family, and that was it. Now, honestly, I mean, it's not a big deal, honestly. I mean, at first, yeah, you're kind of like, like, dang, like, I can't text somebody. I can't just, like, check Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, things like that. So at first, it is kind of but eventually you just kind of get over it, and you just start focusing on what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish to get through basic training. So not having the distraction of a cell phone is actually a pretty good thing, and you just kind of forget about it and you do you. All right, next question is, do guys and girls train together? And quick answer is yes, they do. This is something that I wasn't too sure about when I was joining. I didn't know, how that worked. But yeah, guys and girls, they all train together. We all do the same thing. Well, obviously we're roomed separately, but as far as like the training aspect and your platoons, it's all mixed, girls and guys, and you do it. The girls do the same thing the guys do. Guys do the same stuff the girls do. So you're all going through the same training together. So yes, you do train with the opposite gender in basic training. All right, next question is, what is the food like? So basically, you're gonna have what's called a DFAC. It's the dining facility. It's basically just a big cafeteria where they serve, your meals. And it's actually good food. I mean, it's not bad food. It's regular food. Like, it's good food. So yeah, I mean, there's that. As far as like MREs, because you're constantly going to be going out and doing trainings out on a field or at the range or doing like obstacle courses somewhere, the way it was for us was most of the time it was always, and this was like an everyday deal, where in the mornings after PT we would have breakfast at the DFAC, and then we'd go out wherever we were going to do our training for the day, and we would have lunch, would be an MRE out there, and then we'd come back and to the barracks and have dinner in the dining facility. So that was kind of like the majority of days, but there was days where we would go out to the field or whatever, and they would bring to us what's called hot A's, which is basically like the food from the DFAC in these like containers, keeping it warm and whatnot. And then we serve the food out there on the field. So you're getting like the real food, but out there in the field. But most of the time, when we were out in the field, in a field environment, we were gonna get an MRE. So that's one thing to keep in mind. There is, you're pretty much gonna have an MRE at least once a day in basic training. Next question is, how often and what kind of exercises do you do in basic training? So as far as how often, you're gonna exercise every morning. PT is every morning. It's the first thing you do. Wake up was at 4 a.m. and first formation was like 5:15, and that was the first thing we would do, was have PT, and it would be anything really. So I mean, all the stretches were always the same. Your first stretches will always be the same, but then like the main workout, it's always either going to be a strength workout or a running workout. That's the two you're always ever going to do. It's always going to be, if you're doing strength workouts, it could be anything from like doing 4 for the core, like doing your ab workouts. It could be going on the pull-up bars and doing like your pull-up workouts, things like that, anything like that. And then as far as running, it could be any type of running exercise, whatever they have you do that involves running. So, but those are going to be the main exercises that you're going to do. It's always going to be either running or some type of strength exercise. But there is a number of different exercises that they can have you do. Just depends on what they have you do. So that's pretty much that. Next question is on PT, and it is, what happens if you fail PT? So basically, in basic training for PT, you're going to take 3 PT tests. You're going to have a first initial PT test, then you'll have one in like the middle of basic training, then you'll have your last one at the end of basic training. Now, out of those 3, the only one you really need to pass is the last one, because the last one is the one that's gonna qualify you for graduation. So basically, because I failed my first 2 PT tests when I was in basic, and it was my fault for not going to basic training already in shape. So my advice to you guys is, you definitely want to show up to basic training already in shape, because if not, it's gonna suck. And trust me, because I know. But, I eventually got into shape, and thankfully by the end of basic training, I was then able to pass my PT test. But, so that's the biggest thing, is the last one is the one that you really have to pass. You can fail those first 2, and all they're going to do is put you in with remedial PT groups. So basically every morning when you PT, you're going to have to be in a group that works harder, because they're trying to get you, the drill sergeants are trying to get you to be able to pass your PT test. So that's that. But the last one is the one you have to pass. Now, basically what that means, but also on the flip side is, if you pass the first one and the second one, but then you fail that third one, then you're not going to graduate until you can pass that last PT test. Because even though you pass the first 2, if you can't pass now, then you can't pass. You get what I'm saying? So that last one has to be passed no matter what. All right, next question I got here is, do you have any free time in basic combat training? And yes, you sort of do. So basically, in between final formation and lights out, final formation was usually around like 9 o'clock, and then lights out is 10 o'clock. So from 9 to 10 for that hour, it's your free time. And in that free time, you can do, if you received any letters, you would read letters. Then you could even write letters to send out. It's also when everybody would take their showers and kind of do personal hygiene. Um, Me and my battle buddies, another thing we would do is we would do like push-ups and sit-ups right before bed, or other things would be just talking. We would just conversate, and socialize. It was kind of just kind of do whatever you could, whatever was available to you, which really wasn't a whole lot to do, but that's the only free time you really had. All right, next question is how long is basic training? So if you look it up, or even if your recruiter tells you, it's going to say that Army basic training is 9 weeks long, which it is, but you're going to be there for about 11 weeks because the 9 weeks is the 9 weeks of consecutive training weeks. Okay. Now, the very first week from when you get there is reception. So basically within that first week, it's when you're doing all like the administrative stuff, like paperwork, filling out your like direct deposit stuff, getting your military ID, getting your uniforms, your boots, getting all of that stuff situated is what's happening in reception. So that's like the whole first week. Then you'll actually start, because week 1 doesn't actually start until you start basic training. So then that second week that you're there is when basic training starts. So then you're going to have the 9 weeks of consecutive training weeks. And then you're going to have, so by the end of the 9 weeks, you've really already been there for 10 weeks, counting that first week of reception. Then the 11th week is the last week, which is whenever you're turning in gear, returning your weapons, and then also getting ready for family day and then graduation. So as far as training, yes, 9 weeks. But as far as how long you're going to be there, it's going to be about 11 weeks that you're going to actually be there. All right, next question is, are showers timed / are they open or closed? So first things first, the showers were not timed. And like I said, this is on my experience because we would shower in our free time. And that last hour of the day, that's when everybody would take a shower. So therefore, no, there wasn't like a drill sergeant in there like timing everybody, being like, all right, hey, y'all need to hurry up or nothing like that. Like during our last hour, during our free time hour, there was no drill sergeant, nothing. It was just us in the bay. So showers were not timed. And as far as open or closed, what they're asking here is like if it's like an open shower where it's just like a big room with all the shower heads, and everybody can see everybody. And it wasn't like that in my case. There was actually individual shower stalls for everybody to use. From my understanding, most barracks are now switching over to that in the basic training aspect because of the fact that the Army is now getting really big on the sharp stuff, which is basically like the sexual harassment and the rape stuff, all of that. So for the Army to kind of reduce as much risk as they can for sexual harassment, so in the showers, instead of having it open like that, then everybody has their own little stall, just to kind of reduce the risks of things like that happening. So that's one thing you can expect, is that in basic training, you're going to, in showers, you're not going to be in like an open shower. You're going to have the individual stalls. All right, and the next question is, do drill sergeants ever cuss at you / are they ever nice to you? So do they ever cuss at you? Yes, they're going to cuss at you when they're yelling at you, when they're mad, like it's expected. Like they're going to cuss at you, they're going to yell at you. It's going to happen. Like there's nothing you can do to avoid it. Even if you do something that's truly impressive to a drill sergeant, they're not going to show you and let you know that they were impressed by it. They're still going to find something to bag on you about. And that's just the way it's going to be. So yes, they are going to cuss at you. They do yell at you. They get wild. Now, as far as are they ever nice to you, the only time the drill sergeants are ever nice to you, at least for me, the only time they were ever nice to us was towards the end, like the last 3 weeks. Once you're finally already getting close to graduation, the drill sergeants, little by little, they'll start cracking jokes with you and kind of making you laugh and being funny. They're still serious, but they're doing little things like cracking jokes and stuff like that. They're easing up on you. And then family day and graduation, that's whenever they were really nice to us and just talk to us like normal, because by then you're already a soldier, you're done, so they kind of stop treating you like a recruit. So that's that. All right, and the last question I have here for this video is, were there any pretty girls in basic training? Now this question, everybody has different attractions, everybody's attracted in different ways. Now for me, like yeah, there was a few girls in my cycle that were pretty attractive from the jump, right? So let me put it this way. Well, okay, so when I first showed up, like yeah, there was like two or three girls that I saw that were like, yeah, they're pretty. And then, I'm just gonna let my boy Caretaker explain this one for me.
Let's just stick with the cheeseburgers.
Oh, they ugly now, but in 8 months, he gonna look like Beyonce.
All right, so basically now, of course, no, you're not gonna be there for like 8 months, but you know, by the time you hit like week 6, I mean, when you first show up, yeah, you're gonna kind of notice the pretty girls, whoever you're attracted to or whatever, and then, but by week 6, you're gonna start looking at your homeboy. You're gonna be like, hey, bro, has that girl always been here? And it's like, it's just one of those deals that because you're seeing the same people every day for those full 10 weeks, towards the end, eventually some people are going to start looking a little better than they were before. And that's just the way the mind works. But nah, there's those, it's just, I can't tell you. In my experience, yeah, there was a few girls that I was attracted to, and then by the end, I was kind of attracted to all of them. But, it's all just depends on you and what you find attractive. Whether or not, every group is different. So, I don't know. But, yeah. But that's it. So, anyway, so that's kind of it for this video. Let me know down below if you want me to elaborate any more on anything that I mentioned here, and I can maybe make another video explaining it better or anything like that. Also, if there's any questions that you had that I didn't answer that maybe you want to know, feel free to ask those below also. My next video that I'm going to be working on is going to be a Q&A/my experience on AIT, which is the next training step after basic training. So if you got any questions about that or anything like that, also feel free to throw those questions in below also. So yeah, and also check out my music channel. If you haven't checked that out, that'll also be linked down below. Hopefully I'm going to be having some more music coming out pretty soon. But yeah. Other than that, that's going to be it for this video. So again, it's me, Raymond J times Infinity, just a simple guy with infinite possibilities. And we'll see you guys in the next video.